Welcome to the maiden edition of Insurance Industry 2015 Mega Conference. Theme: Developing Insurance Business for National Growth. Courtesy: Insurance Industry Consultative Council, iicc.
Mr. Steve Ono. Please appreciate him as he joins us. Thank you. Panel of discussants on compulsory insurance. Over to you, sir.
Distinguished ladies and gentlemen, good morning. The repositioning of the insurance industry started since 2005 with the recapitalization. In January 2010, NICOM came out with the MDRI, that is Millennium Development and Restructuring Initiatives, which was to end in 2012. But extended to 2015, and of course in the process the FSS 2020 came up, which now gave us a program that will end in 2020. For those who attended the Insurance Summit of 2014, you will remember that one of the pillars of what we are trying to achieve is collaboration with our stakeholders, collaboration with people that can make particularly the compulsory insurances work. And we are very happy this morning that we have some of the key people that can assist us. 3 of the 6 components of compulsory insurances is to enforce the compulsory insurances, to drive out fake certificates, and to make the public have confidence in what we are selling. And of course, the partners, the stakeholders are here with us. And it is indeed a pleasure for me, and I'm sure for all of us here, to have them and to listen to them on how we can indeed work together to make sure that the compulsory insurances works. Of course, the compulsory insurances that are very relevant and key to what we are talking about today has to do with the third-party motor, building insurances, building under construction, and it's unfortunate that we couldn't get the custom people to come because marine is key too. But we're happy with the people here with us, and without wasting time, I will call on them one by one, and each person will have at least 10 minutes to tell us how we can work together and what they can do to assist the industry and what we all see ourselves achieving before 2020. So on your behalf, it's my pleasure to start by calling on Mr. Angus Ibezin of the Federal Road Safety Corps to give us what the road safety has for us and how we can partner together. Thank you.
Thank you.
You're free, okay, feel free. Okay, you prefer that? Okay, good. Sorry, he said he had a presentation that is not ready, so we'll go to fire service. Mr. Zegu.
Thank you very much. I just want to appreciate members of this industry. For this is the first time I'm interacting at a mega level with the industry. This is supposed to be a mega conference.
It is.
the theme of this conference is very apt, considering that we are discussing with the regulatory body of the insurance industry, the NICOM, to see how we can collaborate effectively against the backdrop of contents of what we have in the statute. One is the 2003 Insurance Act, and of particular interest to the fire service is section 64 and 65. Also, what we have in the National Fire Safety Code, and of interest in this collaboration is items 48 and 89, which requires that for us to give approval for buildings, fire safety approvals, there has to be evidence of general liability insurance to do just that. And then in the Insurance Act also, there's a provision that says that 0.25% of the net premium that comes into the insurance industry gets to the fire service. That has been in existence since 2003. So we were surprised that 13 years after enactment of this law, that the process to start the administration and disbursement to the fire service has not been in place. In spite of the fact that I can recall that in 2008, that effort was made to see how we can access this fund. But for some reasons beyond my, I can't explain, the process was stalled. So the new Controller General, on assumption of office sometime earlier this year, initiated, set up a committee, sought the approval of the Honorable Minister, because he was desirous, just like the Minister was too, to see how we can collaborate with the industry. You know, falling back on history, that the fire service and the insurance industry have a role to play in the mitigation of effects of fire, especially in when it comes to loss, mitigating the effect of loss. So the statute provides for us to do just that. But it's also important to understand the state of the fire services, especially in the States. We carried out a study to ascertain the state of preparedness of the fire services sometime in 2012. And the outcome of that study is not very impressive. So that calls for the insurance industry to see what they can do. After all, that's what is being done in advanced countries. I was in UK in 2007. I went for a conference in the Fire Service College in Malton in March. That's the best fire service college in the world. And they had challenges arising from funding from the government, and they were in threat of folding up. Just last month, I was back there. I discovered there were changes. Private partners, under the framework of PPP, private-public partnership, the place got transformed. So I think that insurance has a role to play in strengthening the capacity of the fire services as it relates to enforcement, and also as it relates to public awareness, because our mandate gives us, empowers us to carry out public awareness that Mr. Franklin O'Neill talked about yesterday, about the gap. People don't know much about insurance. There's need for people to buy into fire insurance. We can take advantage of this mandate that we have to reach out to the public on the need for them to take up fire insurance. We can also, when we're going to do that, there's need also to strengthen our investigative capacity. In capacity to carry out fire investigations. All fire, like you know, end up being electrical fires. All fires are not electrical fires. You know, there's need for us to go beyond physical examination, strengthen our forensic capacity, to ensure that there's a thorough investigation to know that those who should be paid insurance based on the report of the fire service. Also, we are talking to the Electricity Management Service Limited to see how we can strengthen our capacity. But overall, there's need for corporate social responsibility on the part of the insurance industry, because at the end of the day, outcome is good for the fire service, it's good for the industry, and it's good for the nation. I'll stop so far and then allow others to talk about it.
Thank you very much.
Thank you.
Well, since we're talking about fire, maybe I'll just call on Mr. Ono. Let's have your views on building insurances and things like that before we go to other people. Okay, fine.
I want to thank the organizers of this interface for inviting me to this gathering. As a town planner, I'm asked to talk about builders' liability insurance, which is one of the 6 compulsory insurance policies in this country. According to the 2003 Insurance Act, this section says, and I quote, "No person shall cause to be constructed any building of more than 2 floors without insuring with a registered insurer his liability in respect of construction risks caused by his negligence or the negligence of his servants, agents, or consultants, which may result in a bodily injury or loss of life, to the damage to a property of any workman on the site or of any member of the public." And the penalty for the contravention of this section of the Act is a fine of 250,000 naira or 3 months imprisonment or both. Before I go further to discuss that, please permit me to refresh our minds on what we planners refer as development. According to Nigerian Urban and Regional Planning Law Act, Cap 138, Laws of Federal Republic of Nigeria of 2004, development is defined as the carrying out of building, engineering, mining, or other operation in, on, over, or under any land, or the making of any environmentally significant change in the use of any land, or demolition of building, including the felling of trees and the placing of free-standing erections used for the display of advertisement on land. I consider this definition very necessary to enable us to appreciate its content vis-a-vis the provision of the Act and see if there are any missing links. Again, Section 7341 of the National Building Code, section dealing with bonds and liability insurance, states that a person shall not erect, install, remove, rehang, or maintain over public property any sign for which a permit is required under the provision of this code until an approved bond shall have been filed in a sum approved by the building enforcement officer, or until an appropriate insurance policy cover shall have been secured in respect of public liability. Section 734(2) of that building code states, such a bond or insurance policy shall protect and give the jurisdiction harmless from any or all claims or demands for damages by reason of any negligence of the sign hanger, contractor, agent, or by any reason of defect in the construction or damages resulting from collapse, failure, or combustion of the sign or part thereof. My reason for bringing to the fore provisions of the Urban and Regional Planning Law and the National Building Code is to observe some of the limitations of the Builders' Liability Act of 2003, as the Act overlooked other classes of development as engineering operation, mining operation, demolition of buildings, felling of trees, placing of freestanding erections used for advertising. If you look through our environment, you see that our cities are littered with freestanding advertising platforms, and these are supposed to be insured. These activities are capable of causing bodily injuries or loss of life as a result of negligence on the part of the developer or his agent. One of the drawbacks of this section of the Act is that it limited the policy cover to buildings above 2 floors, whereas every builder is exposed to risk, no matter the height of the building. Challenges. The challenges facing the implementation and realization of the good intentions of the Act are as follows. 1, there is a lack of synergy between the insurance industry operators and the planning authorities who register and grant building permits. The notion by the public that insurance companies are more interested in collecting premiums but rarely settle legitimate insurance claims is a major drawback in members of the public showing interest in the policy. The regulators of the insurance business in Nigeria have not lived up to expectations by applying statutory provisions on compulsory insurance compliance as contained in the statute books in this country. For instance, if no other person you can point at and gate at any particular time is the government. Federal government, state governments, and local governments are always building. If you can't catch the private developers, at least the federal government that gave or that approved this act should be seen to implement it. You go after them and ensure that this act is enforced. Now, there is lack of legal and administrative instruments by the various and local governments for the enforcement of the act. There is also an unwillingness of the developers and builders to observe the provisions of the Act. There is sincerity of purpose on the part of the insurance industry, and there are so many unregistered insurance companies floating around. You agree with me? Go to motor licensing offices, you will see. There is no level of awareness by the public on the need to insure their property under construction, and that the policy is compulsory. There is poor market penetration by the insurance companies in creating public awareness. Modalities for implementation. To ensure effective implementation of the provisions of the Act, the following strategies must be adopted. States and local governments should ensure that the provision of the Insurance Act as it relates to development are incorporated in building regulations. There should be a synergy between the insurance industry operators and the building permit enforcement agencies for effective implementation of the Act. Just as you register your motor vehicles at the motor licensing office, so also as you submit your building plans to the planning authorities, one would expect that this synergy created, as you are submitting your building plan, you are asking for the insurance cover. That will help to ensure that this is implemented. The policy should be extended, not necessarily should be extended to every type of building, provided the developer obtain the building permit and development within the approved scheme. Application of building permit must be accompanied by an insurance cover. On completion of a building and before issuance of certificate of fitness or occupation, such policies shall cover fire, thunderstorm, flooding, collapse, and theft.
I hand it over to
Proper supervision of the construction shall be undertaken by relevant professionals representing the interest of insurance industry, starting from the setting out of the building when construction is about to start, issuance of construction stages permits by the approving authority, and proper record keeping by display of inspection record cards. Prospects, please.
or if I get back to the office.
If this act is strictly adhered to,
Send my drivers to it.
ensuring every building under construction in this country would increase the volume of funds available to the insurance industry. And increased flow of funds to the industry will help us to foster real investment and innovation and economic growth. This could possibly lead towards the reduction in our so much talked about 17 million deficit in housing supply in this country. It will also make more funds available for financing other high return projects which will foster economic growth and enhance national domestic product. Since insurance expenses are tax deductible in computing tax by employer and employee under the various regulations in this country, I think the builders stand to gain by taking up builders' liability insurance. Considering the statutory penalties for non-compliance, which strip the short-term savings each developer may earn, builders will be encouraged to take up liability insurance. Conclusion. From the foregoing, we can conclude that the low awareness of the public, poor synergy between stakeholders in the building and insurance industries are largely responsible for the non-enforcement and compliance with the provisions of the law. The result of this has been reflected in the loss of lives and property without compensation and invariably on the economy of the nation. This situation can be improved upon by closing the ties among relevant stakeholders. Further, the scope of insurance cover needs to be expanded to include industrial buildings, structures of lower heights that are lower than 2 floors, billboards, even telecommunication masts. We have had some of them fall. Enforcement will not only improve the quality of construction, but will also enlarge employment opportunities in the country. Thank you very much.
Thank you very much. So we'll listen to the Nigerian Police Force.
Good morning, all. Well, I'm here to present my thoughts. That's my thoughts. between 10 or 15 minutes. But definitely, whatever I think or I say should be in compliance with the duties assigned to the Nigerian Police Force.